Office hours with students in programming.
We're live now. So if you need to, do you want to, I can handle it if you need to go.
We are virtually connecting here from the World Conf 17 in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I'm Ken Bauer, and I'm giving office hours to my students in programming at the same time as doing a virtually connecting session. Maha is here to lead the session, and I'll hand it over.
I'm Maha Beli from the American University in Cairo in Egypt, and I'm the co-founder of Virtually Connecting. And I'm going to ask the folks on site, we have several folks on site here, to introduce themselves. And then I'll ask the virtual folks to introduce themselves, who is actually just mainly Kath, I think. So I'll ask the on-site folks to go first. Ellen, are you in another room? Yeah, she's muted. Okay, so I'll just ask the folks on site to introduce themselves in whatever order. Jim, you take care of the order.
Diane, and I'll just rotate the camera here as we need to.
My name is Diane Altinbilek. I'm an online educator with Sue Hudson Literacy Council's Good Learning Anywhere program, where you do 100% online literacy and basic skills delivery, and we do employment as well as post-secondary readiness. I'm also a part-time instructor at Confederation College, and I teach sociology and psychology.
And then your partner behind you there.
My colleague, Nida.
Yeah, so just to add to what Diane has said, we cover a huge distance in the province of Ontario, and we try to get into the more isolated communities in northern Ontario. These are more like our Aboriginal people's communities. We're, getting internet access to those communities and offering them programs that are the content and the method of delivery is more focused on their culture. And also, I have another colleague here. We have another colleague, Michelle, and she has also another role.
My name is Michelle Gauthier. I just actually started 2 weeks ago with Learning Anywhere as an online learning mentor. However, I have partnered with them a lot in my other roles. I also wear a second hat. I work for Contact North as an online learning recruitment officer. So I'm quite familiar with Good Learning Anywhere and the programming they offer. Yeah.
But Contact North hosted this conference.
So in our role for Contact North is actually to provide access to education to small remote communities across Ontario with a huge support for the Aboriginal community. So it's a good partnership with Good Learning Anywhere.
Okay, and then we have.
Yeah, hold on, just 1 second.
We have two more people here with us. So Tammy, go ahead.
I'm Tammy Stones-White, and I work in Northern Canada in Yellowknife, Northwest Territories at Aurora College, and I'm responsible for video conferencing and hybrid or blended learning through the 3 campuses in the Northwest Territories.
Good.
Yes, my name is Blake Weil, and I'm from Yellowknife, Northwest Territories as well. And I'm a curriculum coordinator for the Ministry of Education. And I pay attention to ICT supported learning in the K-12 context, as well as coordinate what we're calling a Northern Distance Learning program, or inside a pilot stage right now, to bring academic courses to small community schools across the territory.
Thank you all for joining us. You seem to be all doing a lot of great work. I was able to talk to some of you before we went live. And we have with us here virtually Kath. Would you be able to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah. Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Okay, so the audio's not very good. I'm Katie McRae, and I'm the program head in the Sato region of the Northwest Territories for Aurora College. So I oversee 5 community learning centers in the Sato, which is roughly in the middle of the Northwest Territories.
Okay, and Helen,
yeah, that's about it. And I work with Jim sometimes.
And I'm going to jump in. Hopefully my mic is working. I'm really happy to meet you both on site and virtually. Really wanted to make this conversation work because of the work that you are doing. Your voices need to be heard across the country beyond the north or the west. I think we have a lot of distance barriers that we need to break, and we have a lot of diverse voices that we need to bring into to these conversations. So I'm really happy that this is working for us today.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for making it, and thank you, Helen and Jim, for organizing this. So tell us, what have been the key things that you guys have been talking about at the conference, like your own whatever sessions that you were able to give? I heard the sessions are all very short, and you have to be like very precise. So how's that been going, and what have you been learning throughout the past couple of days?
I've mostly been learning about you know, like the importance of accessibility and so forth. And I've been learning a great deal about a lot of the new technologies that have been making it happen. And some of it is really familiar to us because we use a great deal of that technology either through GLA with our group or with Confederation Online, because I've also taught online at the college level. But I'm also learning a lot about what the up and coming technology to improve and overcome some of those barriers have been. So we learned about Learner Verified and so forth with their ability to sort of provide anti-fraud thing through facial recognition, which might actually be a really good opportunity for GLA in the future to offer standardized testing through things like TOWS and SmartServe. And if it's something that we can actually get on board with and utilize in the future, it's something that we can do to actually improve and some of our services. We'll be able to provide so much more if we're actually able to proctor online. And it's one more service that we can provide to remote communities and so forth. So that's been the most exciting thing that I've sort of learned about. And also just like the next level learning management systems, the customer service management systems that are available, and what the next steps are going to be for even some of the programming we're already using. Like, I don't know if you saw, but Moodle is here. Yeah. And that's one system that we actually rely on really, really heavily.
So I think she might be frozen again, but I think one of the things that I was really surprised at is, and it's kind of important, is getting into isolated communities and getting marginalized people on board with your learning. And from some presentations, I can see we're all kind of trying to approach it from the same perspective, that we try to connect with the culture and with a kind of making it easy to access technology, not like try to break down any barriers for the technology so they can just get on very quickly. I think those are the kind of things that are really valued to hearing about how to help with those marginalized communities, isolated communities, and get them on board with learning. So it's kind of a social perspective, I guess, just thinking, you know, educating the whole world, right? Mm-hmm. So through online education.
I guess my takeaway really has been, I'm really impressed with the fact that there are people from everywhere, from every different level, from academia all the way to literacy skills, to support services, to software. So the partnership building, I think, has been huge, a huge advantage. My takeaway is just the fact of trying to make it, rather than being individual pockets of what we're all doing, is to try and create a partnership and work together and collaborate. So you're not reinventing the wheel, you're working together and you're creating something that's actually going to be effective and save money at the time, in the same time.
Yeah, the money. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That for me, it's been everything from a very micro course developmental elements that we can put within courses and embed different forms of pedagogy and andragogy that people are actually utilizing, different forms of assessment, all the way up to changing systems where people have access to billions of dollars, which I don't. But so it's the whole spectrum of seeing this complete picture and how these thousands of people are all working together for the same reason.
I guess I should put a few things in there. I'm one of the few secondary attendees here, secondary school attendees. I put my hand, I don't know how many people were behind me when I put my hand up this morning, but there weren't that many. And so one of my big interests is to see what might be expected, at least in this conference setting, of students who graduate from high school by way of what kind of learning opportunities might be for them online, and what the expectations or what skills they might be bringing into that kind of space. So we can sort of, I guess in Higgins' way, work backward and make sure that we're trying to do some of that at the high school level. It would be nice for us in the Northwest Territories not to just have to talk about bringing such basic things to communities, such as the opportunity to take an academic course, to be able to talk about offering multiple ways of taking a high school course in the Northwest Territories. I mean, that's certainly Ontario's dream, at least in another context that I heard that was their dream. But students could always just choose. They would do it online or do. So that's one thing that I'm taking away. The other is, technology by itself is isolating. Although it seems to be connecting as well. So there's a continuum there, and so I'm paying lots of attention to how it is that understands social presence and humanity and the human touch, if you will, in this kind of learning space.
So I'll jump in now that you have my attention. Ken Bauer here again. Originally from Victoria, Canada. My grandfather's Cree from around the Winnipeg area. Here in Mexico, and I've done a little bit of work remotely with schools. I had actually a elementary school in Winnipeg, I believe it was in northern Winnipeg, reaching out to talk to Mexican students because I'm in Mexico and they're looking for Mexican students to connect with. And I actually did a session with my, at the time, 8-year-old son or 9-year-old son at the time, talking to students in Winnipeg in a school to kind of just bridge the gap of we're talking with people across the world. And I thought that was really interesting for that group of students, and I'd like to offer any help I can in terms of bridging gaps geographically. I had a session today with some teachers from Italy who happened to be in Finland, which was kind of weird. I don't know what the accessibility is in terms of having internet access, but there's some amazing things we can do to connect different peoples from different areas, to have some discussions and bringing humanity to the classrooms as well. And I probably don't have enough context because I was paying attention to my student here who needed some help with their C++ programming.
Well, I think we're kind of all about supporting students. And
thanks.
Diane, I never, in your short presentation, I really didn't get a lot of the details about this creative writing project that you've done. But do you want to just take a little more and tell us about your writing across the curriculum?
Well, writing across the curriculum has actually been a movement that has existed at the post-secondary level since the 70s. And basically what it is they're trying to encourage people from across all levels of curriculum, right from elementary school through the LBS levels and so forth into secondary and on, to do immersive and guided writing techniques so we can actually higher quality of writing. So when they enter the college sector and they are expected to perform, but they're not necessarily being guided through the writing and everything. When you get to college, your courses become a lot more focused and a lot more specialized. So teachers can't really spend that sort of time promoting how to write. So what writing across the curriculum does is encourages creative ways to sort of promote writing assignments and so forth, to make sure that they're keeping up that practice and so forth, and that their level is being maintained, or that a higher level is being fostered without having formal English classes that we expect them to take separately. So where the course comes in is when I started learning more about writing across the curriculum and becoming more enthusiastic about incorporating it into my college level stuff, I had noticed that the stuff that they're promoting is stuff that we're already doing at GLA with our LBS. And we're doing it by fostering creativity, giving people a more comfortable and more familiar sort of avenue where they can do their writing, so it's less stressful than just academic writing with a high stake to it. And I'm going to toss it tonight to talk a little bit more about the actual creative writing program, because we're fortunate enough to have her here, and she's the creator of the program. So I can talk about the advantages of teaching it and what we've seen, but it's really NIDA's baby.
Yeah, so I think I became aware that how valuable the course I was teaching was, and it was really had all of these elements that Diane was talking about as far as like improving student writing. So I began to think a little more deeply about it, and I thought that what would be necessary is a theory behind it. So I came up with a kind of like from my own educational background. I actually have a PhD in education, so I kind of drew upon that and developed a theory around how I would approach the creative writing course. And so I made all of the activities, and this is, thanks to Diane, I kind of now have made all of the activities that we do focused on this theory, which, the writing should be culturally connected, it should be authentic, it should have a sense of flexibility or openness. And actually this theory or this approach, it seems to make sense, right? But if you look at the dominant theories that we are kind of having to work under, and we are funded by the provincial ministry, and they have a different agenda, and their curriculum is very static. It's not very flexible. It doesn't touch with the culture. So find that people are able to write, like, this idea of being able to dialogue. If you connect with them at their level, at their cultural level, they'll talk more. They develop more vocabulary. They're not so oppressed by the overriding, let's say, pedagogy that they're asked to connect with, right? So yeah, so through that, my programs were all about, talking about their personal experience, using their kind of language, and there were no stakes, no mistakes. They're not evaluated on it, and what they say is just amazing. By the end of the course, they're much more, let's say, verbal, and we use Google Documents for that, and they're much more verbal in what they're and a willingness to speak and express their opinion. So.
See, and the other thing that we find is we have what I like to think of as a holistic approach to learning, is by actually offering courses that are a little bit more creativity focused and a little bit more culture centered, where we actually pair the vocal guidance and the actual verbalizing of their poetry or whatever it is that they're creatively writing and so forth, and having that approach alongside with the actual technical writing and so forth. We find that not only it increases the level of comfort in writing, but it also increases dramatically the amount of transferable skills. And these transferable skills can translate into post-secondary readiness as well as employment readiness. Yeah. And for those of you who had missed our presentation, we had a question about, do we see an improvement in the success level? And within our own program, I think that we do, because once they become with writing through these guided activities and through the ability to use their own creativity and their own language for it, we find that they're more comfortable stepping into things like persuasive writing, essay writing, writing for employment, whether it be through memos, research and report writing, whether it be through interacting through emails and so forth. Yeah. So we found that this holistic approach has been very, very meaningful and has promoted a lot of success in our learners.
Yeah. And
Can I ask about the immersive?
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry?
Immersive. You said the writing. Something about immersive?
Yeah, we want to promote a little bit of immersion in the writing. So a great deal of our guided writing activities and so forth, we make sure that we're doing them through every single step of the course. So how to write and getting people comfortable with writing. We will tell them that they can, like we had one exercise in one of the earlier versions of the course where we had said, right now what we're going to do is put our pencil to paper and we are going to write about this theme. Do not lift your pen, just keep on writing and so forth. And they don't necessarily have to share the writing and so forth. And unfortunately, when we're connecting with a low bandwidth area and don't have the privilege of video, we have to take them at their word that they're actually doing it. But we find that the level of comfort increases, and we do find that they are sharing with us more and more, so we do actually know that they are writing. And what I mean by immersive is every step of the creative writing course and every step of the activity involves some sort of writing. whether it be pencil to paper or whether they're typing into their document and so forth. And we also have a journaling component. So at the end of the class, we can actually look at a single collaborative document. The instructor and the student will collaborate, and we can actually see and give feedback on their writing. So every step of the way they're writing. And because it's low stakes and because it's immersive and constant, we find that their comfort level increases with the amount of practice that they're actually getting.
I'd like to talk further to you guys via email if I could about writing, because I'm trying to adapt some writing units here. Most of my students, all of them are either are Dene, and so a lot of what you said obviously rings true. I put my email up on the typey thing.
Okay.
Okay.
At auroracollege.nt.ca, and Jim can also connect you with me, Jim Stauffer.
Jim. That'd be great.
Yeah, so this is, I mean, if you could give me your email, that'd be great. Yep. This is exactly what we're trying to do. I just have a student now working on a writing unit, Felicia. I was going to get her to come and say hi. Hold on.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to put yours in there too.
Yeah, that would be great.
It's just first name, right? You don't have the last initial like I do.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
I'm interested in some of the barriers that you see students face in the work that you're doing. What are the ongoing issues or concerns that the students have in the process you take them through?
Well, it's a little bit, it's different from each region that we deal with, because we do deal with remote communities, but we also deal with Southern Ontario. So when you're dealing with people in those geographic differences, there's different barriers. So our remote communities, there might be problems with connectivity. There might be some sort of disaster that causes weeks-long power failures and so forth, or they might just not have the employees available to staff a physical location like a center or something like that. We have some that just have language and literacy barriers. So we'll have some people that come into the program at such a low level that we kind of have to start them at, we call it a first step. It's a program that we offer where it's kind of like learning how to learn online. And we sort of connect them. Sometimes we're not in an appropriate program and we have to refer them out and so forth. So there's a number of different barriers and a number of different ways that we deal with them. But I think that low computer literacy and a lack of connectivity and a lack of computer infrastructure is probably the biggest one that we run into.
I'd just like to add to that.
That's the same for us too. I mean,
yeah, what I have noticed is, like, even 2 years ago, the problems were different. And I would say that a lot more people now are more computer aware, and they can get access, they know what a password is and those kind of things. And they feel a little bit more comfortable on the computer than they did 2 years ago. So I think actually the climate has become more receptive to online learning, just through their, through experience, cultural experience, to Facebook or whatever. Right?
And with our experience and our improving resourcefulness too. Like I said earlier, my biggest takeaway from this conference is seeing the drastic improvement and just getting really excited about the new technology and stuff like that we're actually going to be able to offer, and how it's going to help us extend our services and so forth. So our barriers are going to be constantly changing, but we are constantly improving to accommodate it.
Yeah. And there's another thing I'd like to add, if we're talking First Nations communities. They're familiar with the oral tradition, right? And writing is a problem, right? But with YouTube, you can do quite a lot, as a learning device, and making your own YouTubes. And even with Google Documents, they now have a talk to text. So that, when you're talking, it writes for you. And I think that's kind of maybe the way things are going to go more, is the more of this visual and oral kind of communication. So I try to use that as much as possible, that I don't just focus on the written word.
No, we want to center on their culture
We
and their
use Google Classroom here.
experience.
Have you tried Google Classroom?
We used some of them.
We did use it.
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah, we tried it out.
Yeah, we used it
And
for.
Schoology.
It was just cumbersome. They've developed other platforms since, so.
But we're always on the lookout for
We
better, and like open source is great for us too, because like if it's open source, it's more accessible to a larger community. I'm very, very sorry, everybody, but I have another commitment I need to get to. So I'm going to bow out of the conversation. It was great talking to all of you. And I'm going to let Nida field the questions from now on. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Diane. So if we don't have any more questions, Ken, you have the you have the power.
I've got the buttons. I do. Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I just talked to another student about her program, and I'll wrap up and stop this broadcast. That's fine, Helen?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.